dear students of class 7, how are you? Hope you all are well and stay your home now. So boys, today is Friday and the date is 4th September 2020 and this is our English 2 class. So boys, today we shall learn the echoing green. This is a poem and today at first you open your book and let's start our study now. The name of the poem is The Echoing Green and this is written by William Blake. So at first we know what is the meaning of echoing green. Echo is a reflexive of sound, that is echoing, and green you know what is green. So boys, today we know the poem that is The Echoing Green. At first we know about the poet and you can see also the picture of the poet, that is William Blake. So William Blake was born in London on 28th November 1757. From early childhood, Blake spoke of having visions. He learned to read and write at home. At 10, Blake expressed a wish to become a painter. So his parents sent him to drawing school. 2 years later, he began writing poetry. When he turned 14, he apprenticed with an engraver because art school proved too costly. In 1782, Blake married an illiterate woman named Catherine Boucher. He taught her to read and write and also instructed her in draftsmanship. Later she helped him print illuminated poetry for which he is remembered today. Blake's first printed work was Poetical Sketches, 1783. Works such as the French Revolution, 1791, America a Prophecy, 1793, Visions of the Daughters of Albion, 1793, and Europe a Prophecy, 1794, express his opposition to the English monarchy and to 18th century political and social tyranny in general. At last, Blake died in 1827. Know about the echoing green. The echoing green, also spelled as the echoing green in Blake's original manuscript by William Blake, was published in 1789 as part of his celebrated collection of poetry entitled Songs of Experience. The Song of Experience was published in 1794 as a follow-up to Songs of Innocence. The two books were then published together under the merged title Songs of Innocence and Experience, showing the two contrary states of the human soul. The author and printer, William Blake, featuring 54 plates. The concepts of innocence and of experience were outlined in the poems of the respective collections. The echoing green belonging to the former one speaks of childhood and the play that is associated with this time of innocence in the human life cycle. Now we know the introduction part of the poem. The Echoing Green by William Blake, taken his Songs of Innocence, is a beautiful short poem. Blake expresses the joy and innocence of the children's early experience of life. The Echoing Green begins with a short description of a grassy field on a warm day in spring. Next we know about the setting of the poem Echoing Green. This poem seems to be set in any average wooded region of the British countryside. However, this landscape exists in the poet's mind as an embodiment of that period in a human being's life when he is innocent. That is why this poem focuses on the joys of nature and of childhood. Next we know about imagery. The poem is filled with imagery as if we can see every scene, every action happening in front front of our eyes. Blake is the only poet ever produced in the history who can create so many scenes with so less words. And next we know about the tone of this poem. The tone is childish, soft, gentle and imbibing. There is a strong flow of contentment in the tone, dipped in an atmosphere of mind. Next we know the theme of the poem. Nature's mirth is expressed in the poem, keeping in the mind the human cycle. The poem consists of dual theme. The theme of nature. Nature is vibrant and dynamic in this poem of Blake. The other closely relates to the human life cycle, illustrating the rising and setting of life. Next we know the central idea of this poem. Blake's idea was to portray the rising and setting of human life amidst the colorful vibes of nature. Sorrow is not highlighted anywhere, and that is why the poem is in the innocence section. Now we start the first stanza. The sun does arise and make happy the skies. The merry bells ring to welcome the spring. The skylark and thrush, the birds of the bush, sing louder around to the bell's cheerful sound, while our sports shall be seen on the echoing green. So boys, you can notice that each last part, that is a rhyming word, just like arise skies, ring spring, thrush bush, around sound, seen and green. And now we can analyze the summary of first stanza. So in this stanza, the poet describes how the skies are made happy by rising of the sun. It is springtime on the green and bells are being rung to welcome this loveliest of seasons. The skylark and the thrush have flown back to the north at this time. There are many birds that are perching on the tops of the bushes outlying the area covered by the green. These birds are singing along to the tune of the ringing bells to produce a euphonious melody. The poet identifies himself with the children who are playing on the green and says that the play is clearly seen as the green echoes with all the cheerful sounds of springs. The second stanza. Old John with white hair does laugh away care, sitting under the oak among the old folk. They laugh at our play and soon they all say, such were the joys when we all girls and boys in our youth time were seen on the echoing green. So boys, there is also a rhyming words, that is hair care, oak folk, play say, joys boys, seen green. So now we shall summary of the stanza second. In this stanza, the poet shows that he has not entirely forgotten the aged while speaking about children. He looks at a group of older citizens seated in the large and comfortable shade of an oak tree. Among this group, he isolates a man named John, for he is a very merry mood. It seems as if he has been able to forget all the things that were making him anxious previously and is now quite relaxed. When the older generation sees this progeny at play, they reminisce about their own childhood. They say that they had been as happy as the children are now, for they had also had their seasons of joys on the green, which echoed with the pleasant sounds of spring back then as well. Now the third stanza. Till the little once fairy, no more can be merry. The sun does descend, and our sports have an end. Round the laps of their mother, many sisters and brothers, like birds in their nest, are ready for rest, and sports no more seen on the darkening green. So boys, they are also rhyme. That is very merry descent, end, mother, brothers, nest, rest, and scene green. So now I analyze the summary of third stanza. In this stanza, the poet says that the younger children become tired first and they cannot play anymore, so then they rest their heads on the laps of their mothers. Brothers and sisters lie together resting in the same place, just as little birds do in their nests. As a result, no one else can be seen playing on the green anymore as the sun sets and the whole area becomes dark. A new thing, that is an idyll. The poem is a little idyll of a village green on a warm afternoon in late spring. Old John and other old folks sit on rustic seats. While the happy children are busy with sports till darkness descends and the sports come to an end. The change from echoing to darkening in the refrain is noteworthy. I analyze of first stanza. The echoing green consists of 3 10-line stanzas, each in turn composed of 5 rhyming couplets. The first stanza focuses on the children playing in the morning. The second stanza shifts to the older people recalling their own youthful pleasures and is possibly set in the afternoon, and the third takes place at evening as the very children begin their tired journey home. Very means tired. The echoing green is a joyful poem celebrating spring. The green fields, chirping birds, and playing children remind the elderly observers of their own youth and bring them joy as well. That the field is echoing indicates that this sense, like the season of spring itself, has played out before and will play out again and again in the future. Of the second stanza. In the second stanza, time has progressed. The older people remember their youth as these children will someday be reminded of it by their own descent. Spring is still here, but it's of spring remembered, not the vibrant, impatient spring of the children. In the first stanza, already the flowers fade and the possibility of endings and eventually of death is present. Nonetheless, the old people laugh at the children's play, suggesting a pleasure taken by the more mature in the sheer innocent joy of youth. Similarly, the tone of the stanza is not intended to be sorrowful but inspiring. That the older people are still around is a testimony to the persistence of life. The oak of the second stanza stands in the green as a symbol of strength and security to accentuate these feelings. Analyze of third stanza. A hint of melancholy affects the poem in the last stanza, where the echoing green becomes the darkening green. Spring will always come, and with it all the joys and vitality of the season, but it always eventually ends, giving way to the cold and gloom of autumn and winter. Similarly, there will always be young people to celebrate their joy in this world, but every young child eventually matures into an adult like old John, who must content himself with second-hand or remembered joy while others dance the dance of life. I say the critical appreciation of this poem. The echoing green expresses something of structural unity or poetic organization even in its title. Sun, skies and bells are happy by virtue of one another. The bird song is not simply loud but they sing louder because of the bells, and the green is an echoing green, literally because it resounds with the cries of the children at play. but also by implication in that it reflects the joyfulness spreading everywhere through the scene. Then in the second stanza, the children an echo of their own youth and themselves laugh in echo of the childish gaiety. Finally, the gaily insistent rhythm buds together the first two stanzas and the last echoing becomes one with darkening, and the darkening green is itself an echo, though not of course an audible one, of the sleep of children and the songbirds that are like them, which is one with the setting sun. So boys, after that you can read the poem, go through, and next you can summarize the poem at yourself, and if you have any problem you can call me.